Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another of these brand new Beasts of the Mesozoic releases. There have been just a few figures that have recently dropped, the Allosaurus, the Dilophosaurus. We've already gone over both of those. This time we are going to check out a brand new species to the line, again, as all the others actually were. Again, the Allosaurus and Dilophosaurus were also new species to the line, but as you can see, this time we've got the Deinonychus, and this one is definitely exciting. We don't have all that many Deinonychus figures, you know, it's few and far between that we actually get some, especially really nice versions, and this looks to be maybe the nicest overall that I've seen, or at least one of the nicest for sure. But you can see it's got basically like your traditional packaging from the Beasts of the Mesozoic. You've got the logo up there, you've of course got the species name and scale down here, and you can see some gorgeous artwork over here to the side of the Deinonychus. And then if we turn it around and take a look at the back, you can see basically a nice shot of the figure, as well as sort of like advertisements for some of the other figures that are currently available in the line, most of which are a part of this new wave, and I have acquired all of them actually except for the albino Zuniceratops. I did not grab that one yet. I probably will at some point, but I chose to go with all of the new species to the line right now. And of course we already have reviews up for the Achilobator as well as the Allosaurus and Dilophosaurus. This time we're taking a look at the Deinonychus, and then the Smilodon will be coming as well very soon. So let's go ahead, pop this box open and check it out. So contained inside we basically have some instructions here about the base as well as the replacement feet and everything like that. So well, it's not really replacement feet, but it's alternate feet that you can put onto your dinosaur so that you can basically give it different poses and stuff, and you can see them right down there. You've got you know, closed toes, kind of open toes with like the toes bent and stuff, basically to help you recreate whatever pose or diorama or scene you would like to create. Again, those feet are going to be very handy. You can also see there are some attachments here to apply to the stand to help hold your dinosaur up if you need to, you know, create any kind of cool poses or anything that's not possible with the standard, basically this type of a stand, because you have this included, and then these pieces here I think would connect to this so that you can get it in, like, you know, jumping poses and stuff like that. Pretty standard stuff for the Beasts of the Mesozoic. We also have the card, because we usually have cards included in these releases, and this card as well looks great. Incredibly impressive artwork as per usual, and then if you turn it around, you've got a little dino toy photography back here, the species name, and some information on the species and everything as you move through. So, as always, a really nice, very high quality card. And then we've got our Deinonychus itself, and there we are. Definitely a nice looking figure, no doubt about that. Sculpt-wise, it looks really good. Definitely a natural paint scheme for it, like color scheme. It's not overly flashy. It's nothing incredibly memorable when it comes to like some of the color schemes you get in the Beasts of the Mesozoic. This one's just basically more of like just a straight up natural-ish looking color scheme, and I could definitely see this suiting Deinonychus really well, definitely helping it to, you know, hide and help to ambush prey if it chooses to go that route. I will say one thing's going on with my jaw of mine, like, it's not working too well as far as closing. That's about as far closed as it gets for some reason. I'm not really sure. It also looks like it has a slight underbite. I don't know if they all have that, but definitely something going on with mine. But overall, it does still look really quite fun, so let's jump to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. So starting here up at the head sculpt of our Deinonychus, you can see it looks pretty cool. We've got some nice coloration for the face, as you have like a white, and then you've got a black that sort of runs along the snout up there by the nostrils, and then up and over the head there. But you can see the actual top of the head has a nice light brown variation up there, which looks really good. You've also got like a stripe that moves over for that black, which does look pretty cool. The eyes are painted pretty nicely as well, if my camera would focus correctly on it. There we go. You can see there is like a purplish tone and then a yellow and a black pupil. Nice big eye for our Deinonychus. It also does have a nice scent and shine to it. You can again see the nostrils themselves sculpted out. The lower jaw features that light white tone, and then the black basically there on the tip of the snout. Actually, it's more of a dark brown rather than a black. I did state black, but it definitely looks more like a dark brown. It is a very dark dark tone, but now that I'm allowing the light to really hit it nicely, it's definitely more of a dark brown. You see a little more of that dark brown here in the lower jaw as well. As we transition back, though, it returns to that white tone that we have for the face up there. We can, of course, articulate the jaw. You can see the inside of the mouth has a nice purplish tone in there. Maybe a little bit too bright of a purplish tone, but a purplish tone nonetheless. You can see the teeth down there. If my camera would just focus on it, because this is a pretty small figure, but you can see the really nice small teeth. They are painted. Same deal for the teeth on the inside of the mouth. On the upper side, again, painted. Not really much in the way of like washes or anything going on the inside of the mouth. You do see that from time to time on the Beasts of the Mesozoic releases. This one, though, just basically has that purplish tone and a very nice gloss coat to it as well. But again, my jaw just isn't closing all the way for some crazy reason. I don't know why. But as you move back, you still see that dark brown as it leads along, but it does start to disappear as you move down into the neck. You can see the feather detail picking up really nicely, though. Especially here in the white area, it really shines. But as you move up here into the back of the neck, you can see again you've got that really nice looking feather detail, nice light brownish tones. I actually kind of like this area because it looks like some of the area of the white and the brown are kind of blending together right here, where we have like some straggling white feathers moving up into the browns. And same deal again with the browns moving down into the whites. That is something that you actually see quite often on different birds, so it is really cool. But you also have a few areas of articulation as you move down the neck. You've got one right here and one right here, and that allows for some decent posability. As far as the neck, you can see we can move left and right pretty nicely, as well as up and down. You never really have too much in the way of downward movement with articulated figures like this, but again, it's pretty smooth as far as that neck articulation, and the mobility included is definitely quite nicely done. Pretty much the usual type of articulation you get for figures that are about this size in the Beasts of the Mesozoic line. As you move down, you can continue to see, and if my camera would focus on it correctly, I really want to give you a nice shot of how good that feather detail looks. There you go. Right here on the side, you can see that feather detail is super crisp. Really nice looking, and we can also see variation of color as you have different shades of browns and stuff moving through, kind of like yellowish or greenish browns showing up in a few areas. As you move down into the arms, you can see that same shade of brown that we saw up there in the head showing up down here. You can see a little bit of like darker browns moving down as you lead out into this very impressive display of plumage on the arms. We've got some nice patterning moving through as we have a lighter tone striping through that area, and you can see again the feather detail looks really good, like very impressive fine detail within the feathers. Each and every feather seems to have again its own individual sculpt and detail as far as the actual detailing of the feathers, which looks really cool. You do also have arm articulation forward and back, and it can come out away from the body. It's a little stiff because I haven't really messed with it quite yet, but you've also got elbow articulation, and then you've got another spot right here in the wrist where you can basically separate that plumage right there. You can see one of the fingers, again, having that light brownish tone right there. You can also see the nail painted with a black. If we move to the undersides of the hands, you can get a better look at the fingers and everything hiding back here, as well as the nails, and the fact that we actually have some variation of color on the undersides of the arms, as we have, again, some dark browns and whites down here, continuing to have that same sort of style of patterning, but looking really cool and very, very bird-like, of course. As you move back up into the midsection, you can see a little area of paint that doesn't look that great right here, if you like that. You know, up here it kind of looks like the feathers are blending, but down here it looks a little bit more like, I don't know how to term it. I mean, it looks okay, it just sort of looks like a slight paint mishap, but it's not that bad. But as you move back, you can see you do have another area of articulation in the midsection right there, which can go left and right and up and down. Not a whole lot of mobility there, but you do have a little bit. As you lead back, you can see, again, more variations of browns here, as you have a little bit of a darker look to the browns back here in the thigh and hip region, actually moving all the way out into the tail. You do, of course, have articulation in the hip, which you can see goes forward and back. And yep, definitely out away from the body a little bit right there. You can see it going back in. Leading down, you've also got the knee, which is incredibly stiff. The knees of these figures are almost always really stiff. I don't want to force it because I will break it, but you can see the joint right there. So the knee should move forward and back, and it can also swivel a little bit. There we go. I've popped the swiveling in now, so it can swivel. But yeah, I'm going to have to warm that knee up with either a hair dryer or some warm water to really get that moving. But I'm sure you can figure out basically how the articulation of the knee works, as we've had so many of these figures over the course of the time the Beasts of the Mesozoic has been around. You can see, again, some really nice feather detail actually leading off the back of the thigh. I like how there's just like some straggling feathers back here. That looks pretty cool. You can also kind of see the muscle definition of the thigh. You can definitely see the muscle definition of the calf right here as you move down. Obviously, we transition to a white in the knee area, and then we lead down. We transition back to more of a skin-textured look, leading down into the foot. You do have another spot of articulation right here, which is also really stiff. Again, with a piece of the body this small, I'm really not going to force that, but you can see there is a joint, so it should go forward and back, and can also swivel. And then you've got another spot right here which can go forward and back and also swivels. So again, some decent mobility, and if I could warm these joints up, I'm sure they'd be moving like a charm, because I've really never had any issues with Beasts of the Mesozoic articulation. But as you lead down into the foot and you get into the area where we've got the skin texture, you can see again lighter and darker shades of browns, kind of like a wash. It looks like a dark brown wash has been added right there. You can see the scoots moving down the toes. The nails are all sculpted nicely, again painted nicely with a nice glossy black. You can see over here, again, we've got the dew claw and everything back there. And then you lead back up into the tail, and obviously you've got another spot of articulation right here, which can swivel and go up, down, left, right, all over the place. Gives you a nice idea of how that works. But the tail itself is as well a wire tail, and as you move out, you can see a very nice display of plumage leading out here into the tail. You've got some darker browns that have been dry brushed along the larger feathers moving there, and you can also see there is a different shade of a darker brown that's been dry brushed along these feathers here, just helping to really highlight the feather detail and again show you how impressive it is. It looks really good. And then you can see the underside as well sports some really cool colors, as we've got some lighter browns and then a darker brown that sort of stripes through, and again shows you how incredibly impressive the feather detail looks down there as well. And as you move along the underside, you can see again some lighter tones, some really nice fine feather detail leading along. Once we turn it around, of course, you're going to see the same thing on both sides. It is a fully posable, fully articulated figure, so you're really not going to see much difference from side to side. But you can definitely see it's got that same thing going on in the neck, where the feathers kind of like basically intrude into each other's areas, where you've got the brown leading into the white leading into the brown, and you can see the same style of feathering down here in the stomach region as well. So very clearly that was done on purpose, probably in my opinion, to sort of give it that look of the feathers kind of straying from their areas. I could be wrong, but that's sort of the way it seems to me. But definitely a really cool looking Deinonychus, and absolutely one of the best on the market. Now let's see if we can get our Deinonychus to stand on its own. I can imagine we probably could. Maybe I actually should re-bend the legs. Actually, I forgot the knee's not working too well for me, so maybe I can't bend the legs. I don't know if maybe I could bend the leg on the other side. Not really. So I want to try to get the legs in a position where I can, get it into a comfortable walking position, but my legs here of mine aren't really moving too well. So there we go, we've got it standing on its own. So very clearly the Deinonychus can stand on its own. I'm going to turn it though and stand it with its tail touching, just to make it a little easier for me to measure, and if I bump it, it won't fall. So you're looking at about lengthwise right around 7.5 inches, maybe a hair under, or about the 19 centimeter mark. And then of course in the position it's currently standing in with its head kind of more upright, around 3 inches or about 7.5 centimeters for a size comparison. There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Deinonychus, and as you can see, it is fairly small, especially when it comes to Beasts of the Mesozoic figures. Definitely a bit on the smaller side, and for another comparison to further show you that, we've got a Mattel Velociraptor next to the Beasts of the Mesozoic Deinonychus, and here you can see very clearly that the Mattel Velociraptor is a bit bigger. And then if we bring in one of what I would consider like the usual standard size range for a lot of the raptor type releases from Beasts of the Mesozoic, we have one of the 6th scale raptors next to the Deinonychus, and as you can see, the Deinonychus is a whole lot smaller. And then probably the best comparison I can give you guys would be by bringing in one of the smaller Tyrannosaur series releases, as we have the Morose here next to the Deinonychus, showing you that these two are actually very similar in size, with the Deinonychus being only a little bit smaller. So this brand new Beasts of the Mesozoic Super Articulated 1/18th scale Deinonychus is pretty fun. Again, it's not one of my favorites to come from the series overall. There are just a few things about the figure that are like a little bit iffy to me, I think. And one is the fact that my mouth on mine isn't working. Now, I can't say that's a widespread issue because I have only seen my figure. I haven't really watched any other reviews or anything on it, so I'm not too sure if anybody else was having that problem. But it is a little disheartening for mine. It also has a bit of an underbite, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that's not the end of the world. But I just wish my jaw worked a little bit better. Outside of that, though, the sculpt is magnificent. I have to say that. It is really nicely done, really highly detailed, and overall is definitely one of the nicest sculpted Deinonychus models on the market. The coloration is also nicely done as far as like the color scheme. I feel like they chose a really nice natural color scheme for the figure. Some of the paint looks, a little bit not really as high quality as I feel like most Beasts of the Mesozoic figures have, but it's still not bad by any means. I think the paintwork still looks really good. There's just a few areas like the transition in the stomach just looks a little bit questionable to me, but overall it's just very minor areas because the majority of the paintwork does look pretty good. You've got some very nice variation of color, nice dry brushing techniques and stuff that they've used to really help to highlight the detail and bring out the paintwork in a very realistic way. We've also got lots of articulation. Some of mine currently is a little stiff, but that's not anything that's a problem. I just need to warm it up and, get that articulation moving. But it has pretty much all of the articulation that you know and love for a Beasts of the Mesozoic release. So that as well is really awesome. Without a doubt, though, this is definitely a very fun release, and I would not at all mind seeing a 1/6 scale version of this Deinonychus at some point in the line. It would definitely be really fun to have that. So in the comment section, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you going to pick this guy up and, add this one to your collection? And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.